Drivers, start your engines!
It's MRN Motorsports Monday, the place for the latest news and loudest opinions, direct from the guys at the track. Presented by Outback Steakhouse. The stories, views, and opinions expressed on MRN Motorsports Monday are not likely shared by anyone, anywhere. Results may vary, so you should talk to your doctor before watching.
What's up, Doc?
Today's episode is brought to you by Hercules Tires.
Pace car is on.
Here's Woody Kane.
Oh, boy, am I glad to see you guys!
I knew you'd come back, Woody.
And Joey Meyer.
Just a reminder, if you're asking me a question on the radio, just keep talking till I answer it for you, all right?
MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse. I'm Woody Kane, joined by Joey Meyer as we talk about the racing that was out at Charlotte Motor Speedway. A long wait to get the Xfinity race in. Practice rained out for the Cup guys. They race on Sunday, and Martin Truex Jr. starts round two exactly as he started round one in Victory Lane.
You know, one of the unusual things about this weekend was the simple fact that weather was a big problem. We forecasted it. We had issues. We planned on it. At the end of the day, Sunday went off without a hitch, but they did implement their starting an hour earlier. That may have
With
played
24 hours notice.
24-hour notice was the new procedure for the TV and the fans, and it worked out really well. Sherry Pollux is starting chemotherapy again, so she can't be by the side of Martin Truex Jr., so an emotional Victory Lane with Martin Truex Jr. An unusual situation on the Xfinity side. We have three rookies, top three in points.
Yeah,
That's
and how often
unusual.
does that happen?
Yep.
Never, almost.
And then we have a full-time Cup guy winning the Xfinity Series again.
Well, he's not yet,
Oh,
but he
okay.
will be.
He will be.
He will be
There
next
you go.
year.
That's right.
Yeah, Alex Bowman wins on the Xfinity side, and he says that kind of validates him going forward when people were trying to throw up the he hasn't gotten a win yet, how can he replace Dale Jr. meme.
He's not replacing Dale Jr. He's just going to, he's
Right.
getting a Cup ride. And there's a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference.
He's been in the sport long enough, was successful back in 2013, ran his first full-time season in the Xfinity Series back then for Robbie Benton and finished right outside the top 10 in points. So he's had plenty of experience. He's shown he run last year 9 races in the Cup car, subbing for Dale Jr., had 7 top 10s. So he's done an okay job over there.
Yeah, he's done pretty well. Give him a chance.
Yeah, he's fine.
Let's criticize him when there's something to really criticize about and kind of hold off until then.
My driver will give you plenty to criticize him about.
All
So
right. Well, that's your worry. Right now we're continuing with the show. Let's hear from Martin Truex Jr. after his victory at Charlotte.
Ultimate goal is to win every weekend. So yeah, I mean it kind of is the ultimate goal, but take one race at a time. Excited about today. It was an unbelievable day for our team, and to have no practice, to have a lot of unknowns, and not really have the car where it needed to be at the start of the race. It's amazing that we're here in Victory Lane and was able to get it done today. So definitely nice to go to Talladega next week locked in, because that place you just never know. And I wasn't crazy nervous about it, thinking ahead just because of our bonus points and where we were sitting and all that, and felt like we could run good here. But you just never know what can happen. So we've seen what it did to us last year. It just completely destroyed our season, going there and blowing up. And it's just hard when a lot is out of your control, and now it's in our control. So we feel good about it.
How hard did this track drive today?
It was tough, man. This place has become so rough and high-frequency bumps in the corners, and it's kind of like Dover when it gets rubbered in, and it just beats the crap out of you. You're just up on the wheel, and you're on edge all the time. At any time, I feel like you could wreck. It's a handful, and you got to stay up on the wheel all day.
You don't really think of Charlotte as being one of those rougher, bumpier tracks, but more and more the drivers are starting to say, yeah, it's getting that way.
You know, Charlotte's been through this whole personality almost like a sex change, if you will, because it went from a track that was aged and needed to be repaved to where they repaved it. But before they repaved it, they levergated.
I knew you were going to go there.
Yeah, we had to levergate it. We ground the track to make more gription in different levels of the track, and then we got rid of it all and we repaved it, and it became
gription.
And it became so smooth and repaved. It was a one groove bottom lane track, very inline. No passing was available, and now we're seeing it age and mature a little more. They did work on the track a little later on. We're going to talk off track, on track, what we did to that track to make it a little bit better, to even try to accelerate the maturing process. But like he said, it's a really bumpy track now. Those guys with the little tiny spoilers were out of control on entry, on center, and exit. And if you weren't up on the wheel, elbows deep, steering, you were simply riding around the back. And we saw a couple guys doing that. We had a very difficult time getting around the track yesterday with a very disappointing 15th place finish. Unusual characteristic for our guys. But those guys, again, unusual situation. Very few guys took race practice on Friday thinking the weather was going to be okay.
Yeah.
We ended up not having the weather because it moved in on Saturday a little bit earlier than expected. So most guys only practice qualifying trim on Fridays. And we saw that some of those guys weren't very good early on, but had enough adjustability in the car to tune it up, Martin Truex Jr. being one of those guys.
Chase Elliott finishes second for the second week in a row, and he's making some noise now in the playoffs as they continue. Martin Truex Jr. has a 34-point lead over Kyle Larson and a 37-point lead over Kevin Harvick, headed to the elimination race in 2 weeks. Kevin Harvick. And that means, since he had a top 10 run, it is Bloomin' Monday. Head over to Outback and tell him, Bloomin' Monday, Kevin Harvick gets the top 10. Give me that Bloomin' Onion for free.
Free.
Absolutely.
And they have that low carb, low diet, low calorie intake menu.
And they still got the Joey menu, which is not named after you.
Low
Great
calorie.
lunch specials. All kinds of stuff. Head to Outback. Tell them you heard about it on Motorsports Monday. But Kevin Harvick had strength all day, leads 149 laps, the most laps of anyone. Does not win, but they did show some strength. Here's what he thought afterward.
You know, we got stage points, we got bonus points, and that's something that we hadn't done, you know, since Atlanta this year. So the speed in our Jimmy John's Ford is back, and you know, just the details of the day, keeping up with the racetrack as that PJ1 wore off. Some guys were a little bit better at the end than we were, but you know, we had probably a second or third place car, and with track position, you probably could have won. Yeah, I don't think they're, you know, I don't think they're unbeatable at this point. You know, after today, I mean, leading all the laps that we did and doing all the things that we did, I feel like, you know, I feel like we can run with anybody, and we still have a lot to detail out because there's so much different on our cars than what we've ever raced before, and we're still progressing. So hopefully we can keep the progression going like we have been.
Interesting note there from what Kevin Harvick just said. I don't think they're unbeatable anymore. Truex has been very fast, and it's hard to make a case that he hasn't been the fastest virtually all season long. He's been fast in the playoffs. Kyle Busch has won 2 straight races before Charlotte coming in. The Toyotas have been really stout, but him saying there, I think we can run with them, they're not unbeatable.
You know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, my driver was very vocal about one manufacturer having a distinct advantage. And that's really good for that manufacturer. It requires the other manufacturers to step up, i.e. Ford and Chevrolet. They have done that as well. We've seen an increase in performance with Chase Elliott. Kyle Larson's been good for most of the year, but now we see the increase in performance of Ford through Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski a weekday, but Kurt Busch also ran good yesterday. So those guys have increased their performance, and now they feel like they can compete at the same level. And that's important because their performance is getting higher and higher as the Toyotas are, and that's what it takes to compete.
I like your graph there. That was nice, the way you
very
did
intricate.
that.
We have detail. We have very cool toys here at MRN we get to play with.
All the technology you could ever want. Big show coming up on Motorsports Monday. On track, off track is ahead. Did you see the piece of equipment fall on the track? We'll talk about that. We've also got another edition of Ask Joey, in which you get a chance to ask Joey about something that's going on in the world of motorsports, or even his world, if you can tolerate that kind of thing. It's kind of a scary place there, but we'll do all that on MRN Motorsports Monday. Stay with us.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
Today Toyota's featured NASCAR fan is Dr. Tom Pierce.
So, Dr. Tom, what's your claim to fame?
Well, due to all of Toyota's NASCAR wins last year, I wrote thousands of doctor's notes for fans for overexcitement hypertension, a condition that requires a day off work to rest.
Sounds like a responsible doctor.
Doctor? I'm not a real doctor, bro. Would a doctor get a guy off work for overexcitement about the new Camry? Because I did.
Let's go NASCAR fans!
Toyota, let's go places. To learn more, visit toyotaracing.com. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
It's almost Busch o'clock. A time for relaxing and unwinding with a crisp, cold Busch beer. It's the most refreshing time of the day. Wait for it. 3, 2, 1. Busch. Crisp, cold Busch. Enjoy responsibly. Busch Beer. Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
I'm Matt Kenseth, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Kane.
Score some decent points today. Talladega will try to score as many points as we can. If we wreck, we wreck. We'll deal with that when it happens, and then we'll go to Kansas and see what we got to do.
How impressive was that pit stop from your team on the last pit stop there?
Well, they do a phenomenal job all the time, and when you add that into that number one pit stall, it's the same stall that we gained 6 spots in the All-Star race in 2005 or 2015 and won the race. So gaining 5, 6, 7 spots for them is nothing as long as we get that number one pit stall.
Our Tyler Burnett at Charlotte Motor Speedway chasing the drivers around post-race. Denny Hamlin there talking about his day. And keep in mind, Talladega coming up, but it is not an elimination race this time. As Denny said, it'll be the week following for the elimination race. But I want to back up a little bit more. Did you see what Denny Hamlin said last week about pay issues? And I think kind of what got lost in the shuffle was all people saw is rich race car driver wants a raise. And that wasn't the real context of what he was trying to say. What did you think about it?
He actually said in his article, in his interview, he knew that was going to be the headline. But he had so many other very valid points.
But you had to read through a little bit to get there.
Exactly right. We all want to make more money. We all wake up in the morning. We're here working. You know, you and I are making too much money here at the show as it is.
Yeah.
We have all these cool tools we play with. We click our pen. We play with our fingers. It's all the highest technology we got. What he was saying was he would like to see more from the TV package, and he was going relative to other sports. And not only that, but he wants to see the racetracks that are getting the money spend more money increasing the structure of their facility. We've seen some Phoenixes, we've seen some Daytonas increase their garages and fan experiences, but we also see tracks that have very dilapidated garage areas. And he's wanting to see more infrastructure. Make it to where it looks more presentable to the fans when they're walking around.
And I thought the pay thing he was talking about was in relation to the guys at the back half of the field.
Yes.
He equated it at some point along the way, or someone else did, I forget who, to a guy sitting on the bench at an NBA team, on an NBA team, makes hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars and doesn't play that much. These guys are risking their lives. They're literally risking their lives. He feels like the bottom half should be brought up closer to the top half. It was an interesting comment, and Denny tried to be thoughtful and give an opinion, but it seems like all that got put out was Denny wants a raise, and that's not necessarily what he was trying to say.
You know, race car drivers as a whole do risk their lives, and the guys that are at the back half of the field aren't getting paid as good as the guys at the top. There are guys that haven't won championships that are making more than guys that have won championships. So it's a very unique division on how the pay is divided up. And he was trying to, again, stick up for the lower guys a little bit more. It did come across as saying, I'm rich, I want to be richer. But
it's a headline world, and that's a lot of what people saw.
That's really not what he was saying.
I would encourage you to look online and try and find the full context of what he said and see what you think about it from there. All right, let's talk a little on track, off track. This is the portion of the show where we discuss some things that are going well and not so well in the world of motorsports. For on track, what do you got?
You know, last spring race, we only got to run a handful of races for the Coke 600, but the All-Star race, which preceded that, was a single file event. The bottom lane was fast, really saw very little passing. So we now come back in the fall, and the track did some track preparation between the PJ1 and the Tire Dragon.
I knew you. Every time I saw Tire Dragon on the weekend, I thought you were doing that.
Here we go. So the track became wider. So kudos to Charlotte. We're trying to make the track, like we heard Dale Jr. say after the race, the track has potential. We're trying to unleash it. What they're going to do next year is they completely reconfigure the track for the Roval. But for our fall Coke 600 event we had this weekend, we tried to expand the racing surface from bottom to top with the use of PJ1 and the Tire Dragon. I think it was very successful. We saw everywhere from the bottom almost to the 90% line, and anywhere in between you could run to try to make your car fast, to be able to pass. You weren't stuck in traffic. So kudos to those guys. I thought track preparation, specifically after all the weather that we had, still maintained its ability to provide wide surface for everybody to race around.
And now let's put a little context on this as well. A lot of the guys are saying, yeah, I support the concept of doing this, but it has to do with how you use it and how you apply it. My understanding was they did not reapply after all the rain on Saturday.
Correct.
And when they initially put it down, some of the other tracks have been dragging tires after that, and this did not happen. And a lot of guys were saying it was very slick in opening practice. I think Dale Jr. Wound up in the wall, and someone else had to go to a backup car as well. I forget.
Well, Dale Jr. hit the wall, Kyle Busch hit the wall, Brad Keselowski hit the wall. 2 or 3 cars got up loose, very slippery in it. And then what they found out later on, evidently when they sprayed it down, the sprayer mechanism wasn't spraying an even coat. So it was thicker where it should have been thinner, and it was thinner where it should have been thicker. It wasn't a flat layer.
Kind of like us, right?
That's exactly right. But once the Xfinity cars got out there, once the rain kind of leveled it back out, essentially, levigated it back out, right? And then the tire dragon got to go through turns both corners, then it did create a wider surface. You could still see the spray even after all the way. There was a distinct layer. The corners were divided in half. 50% bottom hadn't been surfaced. The top 50% had been surfaced, and I thought we saw the results of that.
All right. My on-track has to do with Charlotte Motor Speedway as well. Last week they had a press conference unveiling the new Roval, in which they used part of the oval that we used this weekend and part of an infield road course. And I don't know if it's going to work or not. Some guys have said it's kind of narrow, it'll be difficult to pass, but my on-track has to do with the fact that they're trying this. The racing at Charlotte, at least in October, they want to do something to make it a little more compelling. It had been a night race, now it's a day race. They thought that would help. Overcast skies kind of didn't make it as slick as some guys had hoped for, but I commend Charlotte Motor Speedway and NASCAR, who had to kind of agree and sign off on it, for trying the Roval. Whether or not it works, at least they're willing to try something different.
Yeah, I'm 100%. Anytime we try something, you don't know if it's going to work until you try it. I have a very strong opinion after looking at the track, but I'm open-minded. I'm anxious to see. We're going to have a test here. I don't think we're participating in it, but several teams.
It's the 18th.
Yep, several teams are going to go test during that weekend for the event. We'll see how it works out. That'll be the first time we had the official. Jay Allmendinger kind of tested portions of it, but did not conclude the chicanes on the back stretch and the front stretch to implement and integrate as far as the road course over in turns 1 and 2.
As an aside to that, they've also replaced the infield grass with artificial turf. We only saw a couple of guys get on it. How did you think that held up?
Nobody went through the artificial portion of it. The artificial,
there was at the end, at the checkered flag, I think both of the
JTG cars got
both
involved.
the JTG cars got tangled up.
Yeah, but I don't. What I'm saying is that the way I looked at it and the way I was walking around on it, the actual main section of the infield was still grass. The artificial turf was at the very beginning where they put the Roval at. That was artificial there, and I don't think anybody got off on that. The JTG cars got off
further down.
Yeah, I believe that was still the grass portion of it. We were curious to see if it would wrinkle up and look like one of them wrinkly dogs.
You're up there rooting for somebody to run through the grass so you can satisfy your curiosity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's kind of bad. Let's move on to off track right now, some things that aren't going quite so well. What irked you this weekend?
All right. NASCAR holds our race teams to pre-race and post-race inspections to thousands of decimal points, degrees that we measure in less than 1 degree increments. Inches, micromillimeters, they're tiny, tiny specks, right?
Yeah.
They had a box this big fall off the starter stand.
Now explain what box you're talking about.
So during the race, the cars maybe get penalized, and they put an LED box, a light emitting diode box, up on the starter stand, and they say post the 2. Well, there's a big number 2.
If you're getting black flag.
If you're getting black flag,
right.
It says post the 2, and that 2 number is on this big, it's probably about a 2 by 2.5 box, electronic box.
Like a flat screen TV.
That box is in charge of the starter. The starter goes up there and he hangs and secures that box, we thought, to the starter stand. It fell on the racing surface.
In the Xfinity race.
And during the Xfinity race, this entire box caused debris. And unfortunately, one of the playoff contenders, who probably wasn't going to move on anyway, hit it. Had a right front tire issue. They threw a caution for it. He was able to get around and put tires on, but then his tire, he wasn't replaced. It was one of the tires that counted against him.
Yeah.
So we cannot have the mechanical issues that NASCAR had, and they're the sanctioning body, fall onto the racing surface. We've seen years past, the lights come on accidentally, things of that nature, but the technology available,
the physical attachment of the box,
cannot fall on the racing surface. I'm pointing out the obvious. They're very aware of it, but we shouldn't have it happen and then react from it. We should have been proactive and had a little more technologically boxed, a little lighter box that can still display the numbers, that was securely attached to the start-finish line. That really should be almost part of the starter stand.
All right. Now, I'm going to forego my off-track here for a little bit just to pose a question to piggyback off of yours. Since if a car can't get through tech and can't get through tech, and we saw this during the weekend as well, those penalties, practice penalties, will be served next week since they didn't have practice on Saturday. It was rained out. At New Hampshire, we saw Joey Logano have to sit in the car for the whole hour of practice to pay his penalty. Just sit there on pit road in the car, never got out to go take a lap. So now my question is, does whoever was responsible for attaching this box have to stand up in the flag stand and not do anything for an hour or whatever during practice?
You know, the same guy that does that, they rotate starter people, and it was Andy and Shannon that I believe were down in the starter stand. They feel terrible about it. There wasn't any rules broken to be punished by.
I know. I'm being sarcastic to make a point.
I get it, yep. But if they had broken rules, yeah, maybe we'd put them in a timeout. They don't get to be in the flag stand.
Go to the
next
penalty
week.
box.
Yes, but there weren't any rules broken. There was actually a part failure that allowed this box to fall off the thing. Unfortunately, the technology that allowed this box to be on the starter stand really wasn't high tech. I'm not saying it was safety wire. I'm not saying if it was tie wraps, but the actual clips were kind of antiquated, and I think we'll see an improved system. So much so that we didn't use the box on Sunday.
Yeah.
The box wasn't even up there.
So that's at least we've eliminated that possibility for that race, and we'll see how it works going forward. Another timeout on Motorsports Monday. Ask Joey is in the next segment.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse.
It's almost the most refreshing time of the day, Bush O'Clock, a time for relaxing and unwinding with friends and family over a crisp, cold Bush beer. Bush's roots are in racing, but whether you're enjoying the race or going fishing, nothing is better when it's time to relax than a crisp, cold Bush. It's Bush O'Clock, so grab a six-pack of Bush beer for the cooler, start the grill, and relax. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch, Bush Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hi, this is Martin Truex Jr. You're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer, number 2, and Woody Kane. He would always call me number 1, so I call him number 2. You want to do a real one now?
All day long, you just couldn't get that restart that you wanted, near the front of the front two rows. Talk about your race and some of the things that you had to go through.
Yeah, we were just a little tight, trying to roll a lot of center speed like the 12 and 22 and the Gibbs cars could. So we freed up, and we just kind of got the back of the car really out of the racetrack, trying to run the bottom and in dirty air. But that last restart there, we got to clean air first of the guys on tires, and I just ran the top, and we were still too tight up there. We built too tight and started slowing down there at the end. But I think we had gapped ourselves enough and made that clean air count that it just worked out.
Alex Bowman in victory lane in the Xfinity side after a lengthy rain delay on Saturday. He wins in that 42 car for Chip Ganassi Racing, and that's sort of their all-star car. We've seen Tyler Reddick win in it. We've seen Kyle Larson win in that car. The 42 at Ganassi Racing has been really quick this year, but Alex Bowman with a strong statement for him moving on to next year.
A very unusual relationship working in the garage. The only affiliation there is through Chevrolet, but he's driving a Chip Ganassi Racing vehicle, which is a competitor to the team he's driving for full-time next year. So an unusual relationship that allowed Alex to get in that car and run Charlotte, and it works out pretty good for him.
It sure did. He goes to victory lane and takes the checkered flag. Sam Hornish Jr. was second, Ryan Blaney third, Austin Dillon fourth, and Brennan Poole rounds out the top 5. On the points side in the Xfinity Series, as you mentioned earlier, 3 rookies atop the standings. William Byron leads Daniel Hemrick by 3 points, and Cole Custer, who's gotten really hot here at the end of the season, by just 5 points for those guys. Now, that was an elimination race at Charlotte, so Ryan Reed squeaks in the last spot, the last transfer spot.
Running gone, Michael Annett, Blake Cook, and Jeremy Clemens do not allow to move on. Jeremy Clemens getting that tremendous victory we saw earlier in the year.
Road America.
That Road America race. So We have those 4 eliminated. I hate to see Brennan gone out of the playoffs because his personality just drives the cameras and the media sensation. But the 3 rookies are going to have to pick it up because from an intensity standpoint, you got Elliott Sadler and Justin Allgaier who have the experience, and they're chopping at the bit to get back to the top.
And kudos to Brendan and several of the other drivers for joining the Vegas Strong effort, helping out folks who were trying to be with their family members out there after the tragic shooting. The South Point, I think, has given away 400 or 500 hotel room nights, and Allegiant Air, which is Spencer Gallagher's sponsor, has been giving people free transportation out there. So kudos to those guys for pulling together, and they've got a big effort starting up this week as well, in which you can help some of those families along the way. All right, let's move on now to our favorite segment, Ask Joey, in which fans get to pose a question to our host.
Hey Joey, this is Ben Lafferty. How much fluid does a NASCAR driver usually drink during a race? And can you get me free tickets?
All right, and he gives you the thumbs up at the end of it.
You know, it's one of the misconceptions that we have these packet of free tickets that we just give away.
Wait, you don't?
No, I think
well, you were off all weekend.
In Charlotte. I got to sleep at home. But great question. One of the things we saw this weekend was Kyle Busch get out of his car that was damaged earlier and fall to the grass. Anytime somebody wants to say that the drivers aren't athletes, you look at what the driver, specifically Kyle Busch, went through yesterday with a crashed car. Not only was he overheated, but he's intaking a tremendous amount of exhaust fumes, carbon dioxide, which is very detrimental to our health. But yesterday during the race, most of our drivers will consume well in excess of a gallon of liquid in a bag that sits in the car. It's hydrated, cooled off before the race, and then after the race or during the race, we'll even supplement that with Powerade or supplements of water during the event. So it's an excess of a gallon. And during most events, our drivers will sweat out and lose over 10 pounds of precipitation.
Especially on the
weight.
hotter days.
Exactly
and that
right.
type of thing. Yeah.
So losing 10 pounds of weight through sweat is hard to replace, even if we're doing a gallon of water. But good question. They do drink a lot. It's not enough to supplement what they lose. And I don't have any free tickets.
What?
Yeah, no free tickets.
What?
No.
This is an outrage.
Yeah.
How could you turn that young man down? He was a great questioner.
Yeah.
He even gave you the thumbs up, and you won't come off the hip for some tickets for the guy?
I don't have them.
All right. This is an outrage. I'm so disappointed. We're going to take another time out, talk a little truck racing coming up at Talladega.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
This is power. This is tradition. This is Talladega. Wildcard Weekend returns October 13th through 15th.
He's on his way to victory lane for the 5th time in 26.
Thanks for listening to MRN. We want to give race fans the best product possible. Let us know what you think. Go to mrn.com/survey and you can get an MRN Hero Card.
It's almost Busch o'clock. A time for relaxing and unwinding with a crisp, cold Busch beer. It's the most refreshing time of the day. Wait for it. 3, 2, 1. Busch. Crisp, cold Busch. Enjoy responsibly. Busch Beer. Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
I'm Daniel Hemrick, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with my man, Joey Meyer and Woody Kane.
Daniel Hemrick, second in the standings right now, and did it with his crew chief suspended for an incident the week before.
And got to announce he's coming back to RCR next year to continue
and
that
they're
building.
signing Matt Tifft as well to go to RCR. So big news from that camp over the week. Let's talk a little truck racing now. They didn't race this weekend, but they have an elimination race coming up on Friday at Talladega, and that's the scenario nobody wants to be in. Got to win at a super speedway.
Got to win, got to finish good, but the unknown, it's the wild card race. It's the one everybody points to. Whatever series you're at when you go to Talladega, it's an explosion waiting to happen. We're going to try to keep our number 19 with Austin Cindric out of trouble. That's part of my job, partly his job. If we can get to the end, we get to move on. We have 8 drivers in, 6 drivers after Talladega move on to the next round of playoffs.
Christopher Bell has been dominant for much of the season. He's leading the standings right now by 47 points over Ben Rhodes, who won last time out. On the truck side, I misspoke. It's Saturday that we'll have that for you. The Fred's 250, powered by Coca-Cola from Talladega Superspeedway, comes your way on Saturday afternoon at 12:30. On Sunday, don't forget NASCAR USA from 10 to noon. And then the Cup race, the Alabama 500, starts at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Sunday from Talladega Superspeedway. A little bit of an earlier start. A lot of folks will welcome that. NASCAR Live every Tuesday night with Mike Bagley from 7 to 8 p.m. on the Motor Racing Network. Friday, we'll have practice and qualifying on the MRN app and at MRN.com. Bloomin' Monday, don't forget, go get one for free. He's Joey, I'm Woody. We'll see you right back here next week.
MRN Motorsports Monday is presented by Outback Steakhouse. Tune in every Monday for another exciting episode right here on MRN.com. Brought to you by Hercules Tires. MRN Motorsports Monday is also available on demand in MRN.com's Media Center, on our Facebook page, on YouTube, and in iTunes or the Google Play Store. MRN Motorsports Monday is a production of the Motor Racing Network.